Continuing in our series of messages on what Christians believe, today we come to the doctrine of humanity, also known as anthropology. From the dawn of civilization to this very day, joining the likes of the patriarch Job, the psalmist David, the preacher of Ecclesiastes, the writer to the Hebrew people, all have asked the same question: what is man? Answers to this question have been as varied and contradictory as humans themselves. Sages and fools alike have uttered their opinions. Man is the measure of all things. Man is a reasoning animal. Man is small potatoes, a mere speck on a small piece of the universe. Man is a thinking machine whose brain secretes thoughts as its liver secretes bile. Man is a beast gone stark mad, a dust heap to be dispensed as it was swept together. The Roman Catholic Jesuit priest Pierre Chardin said, "Man is not the center of the universe as we once thought, but something much more wonderful, the arrow pointing the way to the final unification of life. Man alone constitutes the last born, the freshest, the most complicated, the most subtle of all successive layers of life." The rocket scientist Wernher von Braun once observed, "Man is the fastest and most efficient computer that can be mass-produced by unskilled labor." Will Rogers once quipped, "God created man a little lower than the angels, and he's been getting a little lower ever since." The definition of humans, or more exactly, the identity of human beings, has never been settled, never been agreed upon. Biology, economics, physiology, all the social sciences and religions have searched for an answer. And why wouldn't they? What is man? Isn't just an idle question. It's the most personal, most vital of all human questions. Raising the question, what is man? We're expressing an important characteristic of humanness: self-consciousness. We're groping for what it means when we say I. Strangely enough, self-consciousness results in humans being the only creatures that are problems to themselves. Psychologist Abraham Maslow once observed, "The human species is the only species which finds it hard to be a species." But before I get carried away, let me suggest that we can address the doctrine of humanity, the doctrine of anthropology, from three perspectives. You'll see an outline in your bulletin. The first is humanity as God made us. Secondly, there's humanity as sin has marred us. And finally, humanity as Christ can remake us. Humanity as God made us. In spite of a notion that's very popular in this part of the country, human beings are not self-made. We are creatures, products of God's creative power and His incomprehensible love. In one of the most insightful and significant statements in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it's asserted that we humans are made in God's image, to sell Him, and in His likeness, demuth. This image, this likeness has always been interpreted and understood in differing in various ways. That humans possess personality, spiritual consciousness, anticipation, moral choice, verbal expression, personal awareness, will, creativity, self-control, and cognitive skills distinguishes us from all other life forms. I know, and you do too. Increasingly, our New Age culture would have us believe that animals, yes, and even plants are on par with human beings. But this idea fails to pass the scrutiny of science or the truth of Scripture. 2 illustrations will suffice. Humans possess an aesthetic appreciation unique to all life forms. Human beings possess an aesthetic appreciation which is not known to any other form of life. Some years ago, the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra went to the world-famous St. Louis Zoo to give a concert to the animals. It was a scientific experiment to see how animals respond to music. The orchestra played everything from symphonic music to hard rock. The animals' response varied from mere tolerance to downright disapproval. Some animals dislike music of any kind. Almost all of them dislike music in the minor mode. Crocodiles, scorpions, and spiders seem to be the only creatures to tolerate all kinds of music. On the other hand, seals seem to go along with everything except jazz and rock music. We've all heard about snake charmers. The truth is, snakes can't hear a thing. Snakes react to movement. It's the charmer's swaying to and fro. It's not the pipe that he plays that gets their attention. Apparently animals, yes, even birds, have no real appreciation of musical sounds. What feelings they do have for beauty of any kind is simply an instinctive response triggered by reflex actions of the mating process. Only humans appear to be capable of responding to things purely for aesthetic reasons. On behalf of humans alone, is it true? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But not only do only humans possess an aesthetic appreciation unique to all life forms, humans also have superior reasoning power. Even though our brain will forget more than 90% of what we've learned or experienced, take it from me, it's true. Still, it may store as much as 10 times more information than the Library of Congress. Contrary to what you might hear from the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals or People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, differences between animals and humans are myriad, marked, and magnificent. We're different in kind, not just degree. As someone put it, we're dust flirting with destiny. God has put into our hearts eternity. Our affinity is with our Maker, not with that which He has made. The question of human identity then can't be answered in terms of biology, sexuality, economics, or even sociology. The efforts of these disciplines always end with the same pathetic whimper. Man is a puzzlement. Yes, he is. But why is man a puzzlement? Because biology, economics, and sociology ignore the reality that humans are created in God's image. Yes, in His likeness. Apart from the recognition that we were and are an idea in the mind of God, the only visible creature which God, in the proper sense of the word, could love, any calculation of human worth and wonder will never, ever add up. The only creature capable of being loved is that one which also is capable of reciprocal love. As humans, we're the consummation of God's creative skill. Being both material and spiritual, we possess a life that runs parallel with the life of the eternal, a life that neither sin, death, nor hell can quench. How awesome this makes the importance of each and every individual. And that's the way God intended it to be. But secondly, humanity has been marred by sin. That's very important to know and to remember if we're to understand who we are. The reality of our human condition is that though we were created in God's image and likeness, we've all sinned. We've all fallen short of His glorious ideal. As Willard Ward says, man is a peculiar, puzzling paradox, groping for God and yet hoping to hide from Him at the self-same time. When first created, Adam and Eve were neither sinful nor mortal. But since life, happiness, and meaning hinge on free choice, humanity has since been put on trial. How ironic. There can be no fulfillment in life but through obedience to God. But there can be no obedience to God apart from the liberty of disobedience. In the beginning, life and death were set before Adam and Eve, embodied in the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And as with Adam and Eve, we too have made the wrong choice. We've willfully disobeyed God, and so anarchy, rebellion have ruined paradise. Paradise, which was our intended habitation. We elect to wallow in sin rather than soar in righteousness. In God's divine plan, the ugly caterpillar turns into a beautiful butterfly. But with sinful humanity, it's the other way around. The beautiful butterfly turns into the caterpillar. A thing of worth is cast off as worthless, while the ugly and the vain is treasured. How much is a person worth? Scientists over the years have put their minds to it. These days, if you speak in terms of raw materials, the average person is worth just about $10. Unless, of course, you have a gold filling in your mouth or perhaps an artificial joint. Yet these things are priceless. The human body, the human personage. Because Jesus asked, what does it profit a person if they gain the whole world and lose their own soul? What can a person give in trade for their life? Are you worth only $10? Even so, sin sells life cheaply through abortion, euthanasia, wanton violence, high-risk behavior, and suicide. Day after day, Week after week, year after year, lives are discarded like so much worthless trash. That's humanity as marred by sin. But fortunately, finally, we have humanity as Christ alone can remake us. We gaze upon the ruins of ancient civilizations and conclude that in former times their achievements must have been magnificent and glorious. And so it is with fallen humanity. We want to believe that buried beneath our wretchedness lays possibilities which may elevate us to something splendid if we'd only be delivered from the domination of sin to once again stand in the presence of God. Carl Jung, a renowned psychologist, after years of counseling experience, concluded that his patients never became permanently cured until they'd made some sort of reconciliation with the infinite, with God. Reconciliation. That's our only hope, to be remade in the image of God. Romans chapter 5 tells us, when Adam sinned, sin entered the entire human race. His sin spread death throughout all the world, so everything began to grow old and to die. What a contrast between Adam and Christ, who is yet to come. And what a difference between man's sin and God's forgiveness. For this one man, Adam, brought death to many through his sin. But this one man, Jesus Christ, brought forgiveness to many through God's mercy. Adam's one sin brought the penalty of death upon many. And yet Christ, by his one act of sacrifice, has paid the penalty of our sin. The sin of this one man, Adam, caused death to be king over all. But all who will take God's gift of forgiveness and acquittal are kings of life because of one man, Jesus Christ. Yes, Adam's sin brought punishment to all, but Christ's righteousness makes people right with God so they can live. Adam caused many to be sinners because he disobeyed God. And Christ caused many to be made acceptable to God because he obeyed God. So what's it going to be? What sin has made of us, or what Christ can remake of us? We must decide. What is man? A question from time immemorial. What is man? Who am I? A question not just germane, but essential today. On our own, we're nothing but futile and aimless souls, wasted, wandering, and in the estimation of many, worthless. But when we give ourselves to Christ and to his work of remaking our will, our spirit, and our mind, we become once more fashioned in the image of God. Yes, found in his likeness. The king of Prussia once visited a grade school, and after being welcomed by one of the students, the king had hoped to discover how much that particular student had learned in school. And so he took a plant from the windowsill, held it up, and asked the young lady, "To which kingdom does this belong?" "The vegetable kingdom," she said. Then he held up a coin and asked, "To which kingdom does this belong?" "The mineral kingdom," she answered. Obviously pleased with her answers, the king asked, "And which kingdom do I belong to?" And without a moment's hesitation, the girl said, "God's kingdom, sire." The king was deeply moved. A tear glistened in his eye, and he placed his hand on her head and said, "May God grant that I be counted worthy of that kingdom." What is man? Through the love and power of Jesus Christ, every person, regardless of their present condition, of their self-image, or society's assessment of them, can be made new in the image of God. Oh Lord, how we need to be remade, to be remolded, to be reformed, that we might be as you willed us to be in the beginning. Creatures, yes, but creatures in your likeness. Creatures in your image.